Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where today we are talking about the brand new $3.4 million McLaren Sabre. It's been known as the codename of BC03, but now we found out a little bit more in what looks like a leak but isn't a leak. And today I'd like to tell you a lot more information about the car, some things I guarantee you did not know about it, the backstory, the actual specification and numbers behind it, plus a little bit more from my perspective as a McLaren Ultimate Series customer, as a Senna owner, of what I think about the new Sabre. Let's get straight into it then, the new McLaren Sabre. Just look at this thing. Is it not incredible? The new McLaren Sabre. Now, to give you some of the headline facts and figures about it, it is the fastest two-seater McLaren ever with a top speed of 218 miles per hour. It is the most powerful non-hybrid McLaren ever with 835 horsepower. There are only 15 cars in total, all pre-sold, a commission via MSO, McLaren Special Operations, and they're only for the US market. Now, there's a lot more detail to go through, but over the last, I would say 6 to 12 months or so, I've been seeing a lot about the Sabre, but with the embargoes in place, I've not been able to talk about it until now. But having been familiar with the project since its inception a couple of years ago, I have a lot of things that I can now share with you. I guarantee some things that you will not previously have heard. This is actually a story I would like to begin by rewinding the clock back to 2017, McLaren in a very different stage to where they are now. In fact, we were hearing rumours of the codename P15 that would be the next Ultimate Series car, a car that I had actually put down a deposit for without really knowing all that much. Unlike the P1, which was the pioneer, the P15 would go on to be the ultimate track car for the road. But in September 2017, McLaren introduced the Vision GT. The Vision Gran Turismo has always been a way that Sony PlayStation, via their Gran Turismo franchise, have worked with automotive manufacturers to produce concepts that gamers can play with within the game, but also to give us a vision of the future from the manufacturer, to introduce new ideas, crazy, wild and wacky things that might be completely impossible, but also some design and styling cues for the future. So when this car launched in September 2017, when I already, like many others, had a deposit down for P15, we thought maybe this would go on to inspire that car, and in many ways it did. But I actually had some discussions with McLaren before P15 was confirmed and given a name about it, and I was told that no, this wasn't specifically the case. There would be more to see down the line. In December 2017, at the McLaren Winter Ball, they pulled the wraps off the McLaren Senna, named after the legendary Formula One racing driver Ayrton Senna, presented by his nephew Bruno Senna at the MTC during the Winter Ball. A crazy car, but quite different to the Vision GT, leaving some room for something in the future. Into 2018, and around halfway through the year, I announced that a McLaren Senna was going to become the ultimate Shmeemobile, was going to be joining the garage, and it was shortly thereafter that I was talking to some private car collectors about BC03, Bespoke Commission 03 from MSO. Now, before this, we've seen the McLaren X1, we've seen the MSO R, Coupe and Spider, and now we have their third Bespoke Commission, a car to be based on the Senna, but inspired by the Vision Gran Turismo. You can see where this is going already 2.5 years ago from now, when this project was initially begun. Fast forward another 6 months, I took delivery of my Senna. Since then, I've done a lot of driving with it. What an incredible thing, with 800 horsepower, 800 kilos of downforce, an immense track car. But also in late 2019, October 2019, some images were distributed online of BC03, exactly as we see it now, 15 months later, but not really heavily discussed because people didn't really know what this was going to be. Of course, it didn't have a name, but I find it quite funny to look back at these images that we literally saw 15 months ago, but nobody clocked onto it really. They only went around on Instagram and a few web blogs talking about it, but not out to the mass public as the Sabre has done now. During the current year, 2020, this is where there has been so much going around about BC03. The customers have been working with McLaren, with MSO, throughout the project. It's a commission. That means being involved in the design, the styling, some of the different features that it has, and of course, creating a completely unique spec. All of the cars will be different, but through this year, there's been testing at private racetracks. Customers have been doing their specifications, and being lucky enough to be friends and acquaintances with some of the customers means I've been privy to a lot of information behind the scenes that unfortunately I've not been able to share. But what an exciting period it's been up until now, when it appears that the car might have leaked, but this is actually the launch campaign, we could say, for the Sabre to allow the customers and their respective retailers to be the ones to present it to the world. This has been by plan. It's not been leaked. The customers have been allowed to share pictures and videos of their cars, the assembly, the specifications, the one or two that have already been built, out through their Instagram feed, their stories, their dealers publishing them as well in emails. And I've actually found it quite fun to see that and to see how people have responded and how the different articles have been titled in respect to what looks originally, I guess, like a leak, except for the fact that we're seeing all of the different specs at once. Well, some of them, I guess, not all of the 15 in their entirety, but a car that is clearly very dramatic without all of the information yet. Now that we've covered where the McLaren Sabre came from, let's talk about what we have now. A car that, like I said, is a commission through MSO. McLaren Special Operations have always been responsible for McLaren's more prestigious cars, whether that's the heritage side looking after the McLaren F1s, the specifications for the Ultimate Series cars like the Speedtail, the Senna and the P1 and now the Elva, but also bespoke items on Super Series and Sports Series cars, from roof scoops on 600 LTs and 675 LTs to occasionally as well producing one-offs or limited series to celebrate the 50th anniversary or a special racing victory or those kind of things as well. And in this case, a bespoke commission like the McLaren X1 and the MSORs to create the BC03, born from some collectors' ideas to create a Senna-based vehicle more inspired by the Vision GT, which is quite obvious when you look at it and also when you look at the different colour schemes that have been offered, as well as on those pictures that leaked a year and a bit ago too. But to run through more of the details about exactly what this car is, we have the M840T V8, the twin-turbo 4-litre V8, in this case making 835 horsepower and 800 newton meters. That means the Sabre does the 0 to 124 miles per hour sprint, that's to 200 kilometers an hour, in 7.3 seconds. So a touch behind the 6.9 of the Senna. It will go on to a top speed that, like I said, is the fastest for a two-seater McLaren at 218 miles per hour, 351 kilometers per hour, so faster than the 208 miles per hour or 335 of the McLaren Senna. But interestingly, the din curb weight of the car is 1,489 kilos as opposed to the 1,309 kilos, so quite a significant difference to the McLaren Senna. That's the weight with a 75 kilo driver, all of the fluids and 90% of the fuel. It was born out of a customer brief to make a show car for the road. The customers working throughout this process, from the design through to the build and ultimately the final production of the McLaren Sabres, to create this exclusive commission for the US market only. Now, the reason for going to the US market only is to enable it to have a few different things in the design, to have sharper edges which work in line with US regulations versus those found in Europe, and also to introduce some specific features sold through the US dealer network as a result to the customers, all of course much earlier in the process. In fact, I think at an earlier stage it did go from perhaps 10 units up towards 15, but being based on the Senna platform, where we've had the 500 road cars plus a series of the prototype cars that have been sold as well, the 75 Senna GTRs, 20 Senna Can-Ams, 20 Senna LMs, 3 Senna Can-Ams, and now the Sabres, you can see the benefits of crossing over in terms of some of the technology, from the carbon fibre monocage through to the M840T engine and a variety of the different technologies. But it also features on the Sabre, for the first time on a McLaren, having an active aero diffuser. Obviously it is a heavily aero based car, but not quite to the extremes of the McLaren Senna, but it certainly looks the part with the LMP inspired design, the shark fin as I mentioned over the rear deck, having that gigantic rear wing, a fixed wing with the LMP style end plates as well, and a few other details around it in general which are very clearly just part of the crazy design. For example, at the front it's quite smooth, aerodynamic and sleek at the front. The headlights are clearly inspired by the Elva and the Speedtail, quite different to those found on some of the other McLaren models, all the way through to the back with a gigantic diffuser overall, active aero as I said, to help smoothen and keep the car stable at speed, which of course is also the operation of that shark fin running over the back to help with high speed stability. Each of the Sabres come together in situ, where they're built at MSO in what they call a cell, and even some of the customers have been sharing photos of their cars being assembled. I really like how the customers have had the opportunity to present these cars, a completely different approach to normal, even if it might have created a touch of confusion along the way. Now, some of the cars have already been built, and I think a couple of them have even already been delivered, including including what I believe to be car number 1 of the 15 out in California, spotted by my friend LA Car Spotter wearing the distinctive Marlboro style colours of the McLaren F1 era of old, the legendary era, 2 very distinctive colours in the red and white, and I know that we're going to be seeing some incredible specs on the other Sabres as well, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not going to be too long until we see one on the channel. I know a lot of the owners are going to use these cars. They're going to be seen out and about on the roads, going to shows. Some of them will be driven on tracks as well. It's going to be an exciting time with people using the Sabre as intended. Let's talk about Senna versus Sabre and some of my personal opinions that you've been asking me about, which might surprise you as well. In many ways, I think the Sabre is what the Senna should have been from the outset. It is a prettier car, there is no question about it. The Senna, when it launched, was something that's taken us a while, to get accustomed to. At first, it looked peculiar. The proportions, the wing being so far forward, the radical and aggressive aero, all of the gurney flaps and the different body panels, the front not quite matching the rear. As I've come to call it since, scientifically beautiful, but a car that took a while to really understand. A couple of years on and we do get it, but at first it was definitely very confusing, whereas the Sabre just smoothens things out a touch. It looks prettier while sacrificing only a small amount of performance. And I know the Senna from the outset was to be the ultimate track but road legal vehicle, and of course that title is very much there. When a Senna goes to a racetrack, it sets the lap record and nothing is going to come close until we have the AMG 1 and the Valkyrie, the next generation with the hybrid assisted engines as well. But the Sabre doesn't lose much performance, and as a result of reducing the drag ever so slightly by taking away some of that aero, they've raised the top speed by 10 miles an hour at a very small performance expense, 7.3 seconds to 124 as opposed to 6.9, perhaps a touch slower around the track. But one very, very, very important thing to discuss, which might answer the question many of you have asked of whether I'm getting one or why haven't I bought one, is the price tag. A 1 of 15 car, a bespoke commission through MSO with cars in incredible specs with full carbon bodies, comes at a price. It is not the same price as the Senna, we could say, where the Sennas were approximately $1 million. While there's no officially published price tag on the Sabres, I do believe them to be about $3.4 million. Now the price did include all specification that you could choose for, I guess within reason, but you have to consider that in pounds, $3.4 would be £2.5 plus taxes, £3 million, which is nearly 4 times the price of my Senna. So it's a very different proposition. In fact, to give you some perspective on the price tag of a Sabre, that is the same price as my Senna, my Ford GT, my SLS Black Series, 675 LT Spider, GT8, G63, GTR Pro, GTR Roadster, Taycan, Heritage RS, and Yaris all together. It's a very, very, very different proposition. The entire garage of 11 Schmeemobiles or a Sabre. So for me, unfortunately, it wouldn't be in the realms of possibility. I would dream of that kind of thing. I think it's very special, and I hope I get the opportunity to be able to feature one in detail, hopefully not too far down the line. But there we go, the McLaren Sabre. Perhaps a surprise for many. It's great to see it out in the open a long time after we saw the first renders of the final car, but people didn't really know what they were looking at. I love the world of bespoke vehicles, coach-built vehicles, customers being involved in the process with these special commissions. We see them as well with Ferraris, with Lamborghinis, with Rolls-Royce, and a number of manufacturers now offering this opportunity. Of course, it makes sense to base it on an existing car, whether that's the Senna GTR or the base Senna, in this case with slightly more power. In fact, the most powerful of the different Senna models, in fact, as well. But it's a car that looks epic, and like I say, I cannot wait to see one myself. A huge congratulations to the 15 lucky customers of the new McLaren Sabres, the latest special car from MSO. So thank you very much, as always, for watching, guys. Do stay tuned, be subscribed, and we'll probably see one on the channel before too long. That's it for now, though. I'll see you very soon. Cheers!